The silence was so absolute, it roared. 100 feet beneath the Pacific, the USS Arlington glided like a shadow through the deep. Inside the dimly lit control room, tension clung to every surface. The red glow from the consoles cast ghostly outlines on the crew's faces as they conducted a scheduled silent drill, a full system lockdown meant to simulate evading enemy detection. No movement, no voices, just pressure and the ever-present hum of machinery. But then, a sudden thump. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. On a submarine in silent running, even a cough could get you noticed. All heads turned toward the sonar station. A low static hiss followed. A systems glitch? Or worse. Commander Rourke didn't flinch. His jaw set, he slowly turned toward the source of the disturbance. The auxiliary battery panel on the port side, where a lanky sailor stood. Frozen, panic written all over his face. Seaman Bishop, just 20 years old. Top of his class in theory. Eager, smart, and unfortunately, careless. He had dropped his toolkit. Not slammed it, not thrown it, but dropped it. In a drill like this, it was the equivalent of firing a flare gun into the night sky. For a second, no one moved, not even to breathe. "Resume positions," Rourke said quietly. The words were a whisper, but they carried the gravity of an order carved in steel. The men obeyed instantly, but the atmosphere had shifted. What had been a routine drill was now compromised. Worse, a hostile sub, Chinese most likely, had been spotted patrolling these waters just 2 days ago. If they were within acoustic range, even that faint thud could spark a cat-and-mouse game the Arlington was not in the mood for. Rourke walked slowly toward Bishop, whose hands were still clenched around the edges of the power cabinet. "Do you understand what you just did?" the commander asked, his voice low but seething with restrained fury. I was just changing the fuse, sir. I didn't mean to." Rourke raised a hand, silencing him. "It's not about intent. It's about discipline. Intent doesn't stop a torpedo." The entire control room remained still. No one wanted to look at Bishop, but no one could look away either. The newest seaman had just violated the unspoken rule of the deep. Stay silent, stay alive. As the submarine slowly resumed its course, Lieutenant Harris, the executive officer, leaned toward Rourke and whispered, "Should we halt the drill?" "No," Rourke replied. "If this were real, there'd be no halting. Let's see how they handle the pressure." Back at the sonar station, Petty Officer Cruz raised his hand. "Commander," he said cautiously, "we may have company." Rourke approached. The sonar screen showed a faint contact, a slow-moving object, several nautical miles east. Its acoustic footprint was minimal, but it was too deliberate to be a whale or geological anomaly. "Could be passive surveillance," Cruz muttered. "Maybe a drone, or maybe they heard us." Commander Rourke's expression hardened. He'd been here before, in 2014, during a classified shadow operation near the Philippine Trench. That time, a single clank from a dropped wrench had nearly exposed them to a Chinese recon vessel. He hadn't lost anyone that day, but it had been close. "Bring us down another 30 feet, he ordered. "And trim speed. Let's ghost out of here." The USS Arlington sank deeper into the cold blackness, its engines humming at the lowest possible volume. Every crew member's ears strained against the silence, listening for signs that they were being pursued. Back near the electrical panel, Bishop stood motionless, his mind a storm. He had trained for years to earn this post. His father, a retired Navy chief, had warned him, "You don't screw up on a sub. There's no place to run from your mistake." Now he understood. He wanted to apologize, to prove he could fix it. But there was nothing he could say that wouldn't sound like an excuse. So he remained silent, his head bowed, waiting for judgment to come down like a gavel in a steel courtroom. An hour passed. The contact on sonar slowly faded, suggesting they had escaped detection. Still, Rourke remained alert. "You didn't celebrate survival in these waters. You simply stayed quiet and prayed your luck held." As the drill wrapped up, the commander turned to the crew. Drill complete. Resume standard operations. Bishop, stay where you are. The young seaman stood straight, waiting for punishment. Rourke stepped up, his voice still cool. You dropped a tool in the middle of a silent drill. During a week we knew enemy craft. Might be nearby. Yes, sir. You jeopardized this entire crew. That's not just a mistake. That's negligence. Yes, sir. There was a long pause. Then, you will spend the next 72 hours overseeing noise discipline across this vessel. I want every latch, hinge, and floor panel inspected. If anything squeaks, you fix it. You'll work under Chief Donnelly. Bishop nodded. Understood, sir. This isn't just punishment, Rourke added. It's education. You dropped a tool. Next time it might be a bomb. The crew didn't clap or nod in approval. That wasn't the Navy way. But Bishop's lesson had been learned by all. As the USS Arlington pressed on beneath the waves, a young sailor's error had sent a shockwave through the steel halls. But more importantly, it had echoed into every heart aboard. There would be no second mistake. The silence returned, but this time, it wasn't part of a drill. It was fear. The USS Arlington had dipped 30 feet deeper, skimming the seabed where water pressure distorted sonar readings. Lights in the control room were now dimmed to combat. Red, casting long, eerie shadows on every surface. The crew moved slowly, deliberately, every breath measured. Commander Rourke stood near the helm, his arms folded, eyes fixed on the sonar screen. The faint trace that had appeared earlier was gone. But that meant nothing. In the world of silent warfare, ghosts didn't vanish. They waited. Passive sweep? He asked quietly. Petty Officer Cruz gave a slow nod. Negative active ping. No new movement yet, sir, but if they're good, they're already on our trail. Rourke's expression didn't change. He leaned slightly forward, eyes narrowing as if trying to see beyond the sonar screen and into the cold blackness outside the hull. Very well. Maintain 1/3 speed. No sudden shifts. Let's not stir the water. Lieutenant Harris approached. Sir, I'd like to recommend we secure non-essential systems. Anything generating heat or vibration? Already considered, Rourke replied. Engineering's trimming reactor output. And shut down galley ops. I don't want so much as a microwave humming in this tin can. Below deck, Seaman Bishop had been working non-stop under the watchful eye of Chief Donnelly, a broad, silent man with 30 years of diesel grease in his veins and zero tolerance for rookie excuses. Did you secure that vent? Donnelly barked. Yes. Chief, rattle it. Bishop shook the vent grate. Not a sound. Good. Next one. You've got 60 more compartments before mess. Bishop nodded and moved on. Every latch, hatch, panel, and screw he inspected felt like part of his penance. The others didn't speak to him much. Not with anger, just caution. In the belly of a nuclear sub, trust was oxygen. And he had polluted the air. As Bishop opened another maintenance panel in the crew quarters, he paused. Inside, next to the water recycling lines, was a set of poorly secured wires. Not his doing. But if jostled, they could buzz, loud enough to be picked up if they drifted too close to an enemy sonar net. He reached for a small wrench, then hesitated. The memory of the dropped toolkit came back with sickening clarity. He took a deep breath, removed the tool pouch from his belt, and placed it gently on the floor. One tool at a time. Slow, silent. Above deck, the tension remained. At the sonar station, Cruz suddenly raised a hand. Commander, faint contact, bearing 2182. Low frequency, steady pacing. It's not random. Confirm. Harris moved closer. Could be a long-range trawler or a submerged drone. Could also be a frigate running quiet. No way to know until it's too late, Rourke muttered. Seconds crawled by. Every ear strained for sound, every eye locked on the green glow readouts. Sir, Cruz said, voice more urgent now. It's angling toward our position. Slow, but intentional. They're searching. Rourke didn't flinch. All hands, silent operations. No movement. Let them pass. Down in the engine room, Bishop was on one knee, hands buried deep in an exposed panel. He didn't hear the order. Come down, but he felt it. The sudden eerie stillness. The power dimming another notch. The faint shift in air pressure as the submarine froze in its path. He froze with it. Something thudded in the distance. It wasn't loud, but in a silent submarine, it may as well have been an explosion. Bishop's eyes widened. It wasn't his doing. A crewmate, somewhere down the passage, had dropped a clipboard. Even the best crack under pressure. But the moment of fear passed. The contact on sonar veered slightly. It hadn't heard them. Or it had, and chose not to react. Back in the control room, Commander Rourke watched it fade. For now, he turned to Lieutenant Harris. Log it, and make sure every man gets the message. We are one mistake away from being a headline. Yes, sir. And Harris, pull the man who dropped that clipboard off rotation. Put him on deck. Scrub, I want him working under Bishop. Harris raised an eyebrow. Sir, I want him to learn from someone who's already been humbled. That's leadership. Below deck, Bishop continued his inspections in silence. He didn't know that. His name had just been spoken with respect. All he knew was that he wouldn't let this crew down again. Not after seeing how close they all came to becoming sonar ghosts. When his shift ended, he sat alone in the mess, eating cold protein paste and staring at the bulkhead. He didn't touch his spoon. He just listened to the silence. For the first time in his naval career, he understood it not as an absence of sound, but as a language. One that only the deep truly spoke, and the next time it screamed, he'd be ready to listen. The USS Arlington hadn't surfaced in over 36 hours. Somewhere off the Luzon Strait, cloaked in layers of thermal and acoustic stealth, it moved like a ghost beneath the crushing pressure. Yet inside, the tension had taken a toll. Sleep was shallow. Coffee was rationed. And every crew member moved like they were one wrong step away from disaster. Seaman Bishop hadn't stopped working since the clipboard incident. This time, not his mistake, but one that had triggered another full systems lockdown. Still, it was as if fate had tethered him to every mechanical noise on the ship. He checked hinges, tightened loose fittings, logged abnormalities. He became known as the Silent Fixer, a nickname whispered half in mockery, half in admiration. But Commander Rourke wasn't in a forgiving mood. In his private quarters, lit by a dim desk lamp, he reviewed the sonar logs. The same contact, bearing 282, had reappeared twice. Lingering, testing, circling. Lieutenant Harris stood nearby, silent. Either it's a recon frigate, Rourke muttered, or they're waiting for us to move first. They're good, sir. Quiet, methodical. Almost like they want to be seen, just enough to remind us we're not alone. Rourke leaned back in his chair. We're in their teeth, and if they decide to bite, we'll never hear it coming. Up in the control room, Petty Officer Cruz once again reported faint sonar activity. But this time, it was different. Sir, Cruz said cautiously, I'm reading a pattern. Wide sweep sonar pulses. They're actively scanning. 3 vessels, spread in a triangle formation. Rourke's head snapped toward him. Confirm that. Confirmed. It's a search net. They're flushing the trench, Harris whispered. We're inside it. Not anymore, Rourke replied coldly. Change course, 10 degrees south. Stay under the thermocline. We go deeper. As the crew adjusted the Arlington's heading, the submarine began a slow, angled dive. The steel groaned in protest as the pressure increased, walls trembling with the cold truth of depth. Then, an alarm. Sir, came the cry from the reactor bay. Temperature spike on coolant line 3. Harris raced toward the engineering console. Get eyes on that system now. Possible pump imbalance, Automatic valve shutdown failed. Manual override, Rourke barked. Now! Down in the lower deck, Bishop was already moving. He didn't wait for permission. He had memorized the maintenance routes, and coolant line 3 ran through the aft service corridor, just past the mess. Grabbing his emergency kit, he sprinted through the tight passageways, heart pounding. As he entered the narrow utility space, steam hissed from a pipe junction. The pressure gauge was climbing fast. If the heat spiked further, it could rupture, forcing the reactor to enter failsafe mode. The sub would lose power, go dead in the water. Bishop crawled into the maintenance shaft, barely wide enough for one man, tools strapped to his chest. The heat was unbearable. Sweat poured from his forehead. The pipes rattled like bones under stress. He reached the valve. The override switch was jammed. "Come on," he whispered, gripping a rusted wrench and twisting with all his strength. Nothing. He repositioned, locked his boots under a support brace, and used his entire body weight. Wrench in one hand, bracing with the other. It moved. Barely. He gritted his teeth and pushed harder. The switch clanked into position. Back in the control room, readings stabilized. The coolant flow normalized. The alarm ceased. Rourke turned to Harris. "Report." "Stabilized, sir. Valve override successful." "Manual intervention." "Who?" "Bishop." Rourke stared ahead, jaw clenched. "Send him topside. I want eyes on him." Minutes later, Bishop emerged in the control room, covered in grime, soaked with sweat, and limping slightly from the crawl space. He stood at attention. "Coolant line restored, sir." Rourke approached. The room fell silent. "I didn't give you that order," he said quietly. "No, sir." "And if you'd failed, if that pipe had blown, do you know what would have happened?" "Yes, sir." "Emergency shutdown, full systems failure." Rourke paused, letting the weight of the words hang. "You disobeyed the chain of command." "Yes, sir." "And saved the submarine." "Yes, sir." A long silence. Then Rourke nodded slowly. "Sometimes instinct outranks the manual," he said. "You'll still report to Chief Donnelly for the rest of your maintenance rotation, but from now on, you'll be his lead." Brooks' eyes widened. "Sir, you earned it. One mistake doesn't define a sailor. What you do after that, does." The room was still. No applause, no cheers. But the look in the crew's eyes had changed. Bishop was no longer the rookie who dropped a wrench. He was the sailor who saved their lives, and in the submarine world, that kind of respect didn't come easy. The USS Arlington drifted silently near the seabed. Her systems stabilized, but her crew still on edge. Commander Rourke stood over the sonar console, eyes locked on the flickering contact just outside their comfort zone. It hadn't vanished. If anything, it had grown bolder. 3 confirmed pings, Petty Officer Cruz reported. "Same pattern. They're sweeping in formation." "Any signs they've made us?" asked Lieutenant Harris. "No active lock," Cruz replied. "But they're tightening the grid." Rourke crossed his arms. "Then we slipped through the cracks." He turned to Chief Engineer Donnelly. "What's the quietest route out of this sector?" "Southwest," Donnelly answered, tapping the display. "We'll have to pass through. A shallow current might raise our acoustic profile for a few minutes." Rourke considered. "And the alternatives?" "Deeper trench, eastward. More concealment, but riskier. Volcanic activity, sonar ghosts everywhere. Could trigger false readings." "We've already survived sonar ghosts," Rourke muttered. "Let's not tempt fate twice. Southwest it is. Make it happen." As the Arlington adjusted course, the lights dimmed again, systems toggling to ultra-quiet mode. Every crew member slowed their movement. Even breathing seemed to occur in unison. Down in the maintenance corridor, Seaman Bishop double-checked the newly stabilized coolant valve. Though he'd been reassigned as Chief Donnelly's lead, he refused to leave his station unattended. The memory of the near meltdown was too fresh. He closed the hatch gently, as if sealing a wound, and made his way back up toward the control. Halfway through the corridor, he felt it, a tremor. At first, he thought it was his imagination, Then it came again. A low-frequency vibration, different from the steady hum of the reactor. Rhythmic, deliberate, propeller wash. Bishop sprinted to the comm station. "Commander, this is Bishop. Hull vibration detected. Possible close contact starboard side. I think they're right above us." Rourke's head snapped up. "Confirm location. Sound is faint, but consistent. Bearing 110. They're not pinging. They're listening." Rourke moved fast. "All hands, hold position. Engineering, cut speed. I want our wake dead cold." The A. Order echoed through the submarine. All systems went into passive mode. Even the internal fans powered down. It felt like being buried alive. Then came the unmistakable sound. An active sonar ping. Short, sharp, close. The enemy had found them. "Brace!" Harris shouted. The sonar screen lit up. Another contact, faster this time. A torpedo. "Incoming! Bearing 112! Deploy countermeasures!" Rourke barked. A series of clicks, then a loud whoosh as decoys launched from the starboard tubes. The submarine angled sharply, descending into a lower layer of water. "Brace for shockwave!" shouted. Cruise. Moments later, a muffled rumble rocked the sub. One of the decoys had triggered the torpedo prematurely. The explosion sent vibrations through the hull, but Arlington held firm. "Status?" Rourke demanded. "No breaches. No secondary contacts." "The torpedo missed us, sir," Harris confirmed. The control room let out a collective breath. But the silence didn't last. Cruz leaned forward again. "Sir, enemy contact retreating. Multiple vessels breaking off formation. Looks like they think they got us." Rourke's jaw unclenched. "Hold course. Let them think we're dead." He waited a full hour before speaking again. "Resume silent, running. 1/3 speed. Keep us low. This ocean is big enough for both of us." Down in the lower decks, Bishop leaned against the wall, soaked in sweat. His heart still pounded. He had expected punishment. Instead, he had been trusted. And in return, he had delivered. As the ship regained composure, Rourke summoned Bishop to the control room. "You were the first to detect the propeller wash," the commander said. "That saved us a 10-second delay." Bishop nodded. "I just listened, sir." Rourke smiled faintly. "That's all this job is, son. Listening. To orders, to metal, to your gut. I've served on subs for 20 years. The ones who survive are the ones who learn to hear the silence." He paused. "You dropped a wrench. You nearly got us killed. And then you got us through it. Don't think I forgot either one. No excuse, sir. Good. Because this isn't about redemption. It's about responsibility. From now on, every mistake you make, you own. Every success, you share." Bishop stood taller. "Yes, sir. And one day, if you stick with it, you'll stand where I'm standing now." As the USS Arlington disappeared into the dark again, the crew returned to duty. Outside, the ocean resumed its endless hush. But inside, a new kind of silence lingered. One made not of fear, but of respect. On land, mistakes get erased with apologies. Underwater, they echo through steel and blood. Discipline in the Navy isn't just regulation, it's survival. And the only thing more powerful than fear is the respect forged in its presence. What would you have done if you were in Bishop's shoes, or in Commander Rourke's? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this story gripping, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss another deep-sea lesson from Authority Watch.